that consuming too much food during the holidays can actually increase your risk for having a heart attack. To explain why heart problems might increase and spike during the holidays and how you can reduce your risk, we're very pleased to have back with us Dr. Carolyn McClain, an emergency physician with the Urgency Room. Thank you for being back with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, how serious of a problem is this?
So, there are a lot more heart problems around the holidays. Actually, the December 25th, 26th, and January 1st are the dates that have the highest number of natural deaths.
Had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And do we know why? I mean, obviously we have stress, we have increased alcohol for some people, obviously increased food intake and stuff. Yeah,
so I think one of the big reasons I see is there's two. One is we behave differently around the holidays. We don't exercise, we eat more, and we're very stressed out. And then secondly, a lot of our older people want to make it to the holidays. And so they make it to Christmas to see everybody that they love. And if they can make it that long, that's their goal. So that's the second reason I think that we see a spike around the holidays.
So back to overeating during the holidays, what is it about overeating that can increase or trigger heart problems, heart attacks?
So there's two pieces to this. There's alcohol consumption, and that can trigger something called holiday heart. And holiday heart is not a heart attack, it's a heart arrhythmia. So your heart beats irregularly. And that's because alcohol is toxic to your heart. And that happens very frequently when people, even a moderate amount of alcohol can do it, but certainly binge drinking will cause holiday heart. It usually goes away within 24 hours, but it can cause some serious heart damage and something called a cardiomyopathy, where your heart muscle gets weak. So ideally, just drink in moderation.
And what's drinking in moderation? I know it's different for every individual, but what would be a good measurement of, okay, 2 drinks, 4 drinks? I don't know what binging means.
Yeah, no more than 2 drinks. If you have 2 drinks, it would be unlikely that you would have holiday heart. Although 2 drinks is a lot for me, but it's
I usually have my glass of wine, and that's about it.
So, but 2 drinks would be, you would be safe.
What about the eating part of it? I know many people tend to overeat during the holidays.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just overeating, it's what you're eating, but definitely overeating. So one, there's all the Christmas cookies, and all that sugar increases, it turns into fat in your liver. Sugar is toxic to your liver. And what you can see in people that eat too much sugar or too much fat is their liver actually gets fat. There's fat on your liver.
Wow.
It's called fatty liver. And that long term is a problem. But then secondly, a lot of what we eat has a lot of salt in it. And that raises your blood pressure and increases your risk for heart attack and stroke. And that is very common at Christmas and New Year's.
So are there certain, you talked about the salt and talked about the sugar and maybe some of the cookies and things. Other foods that might increase your risk? You mentioned fatty foods.
Yeah, any fatty food. So there was this really interesting study where they had people just eat either cereal for breakfast or have a breakfast of bacon and eggs. And then they drew their blood 2 hours later. And 2 hours later, the people that had cereal had normal-looking blood. But the people that had bacon and eggs, you could see the fat in their blood. You could see it. It actually was on the top. It was like that bacon grease that sits in the pan. That's what their blood looked like.
That's incredible. It goes that quickly through your blood?
Yeah. And
it goes through the digestive system and works its way into the blood
within 2 hours. Yeah,
that's
so then
incredible.
people will have that floating around your bloodstream, that gets into your cardiac vessels, you can have a heart attack. But it has to lay down somewhere. So you're creating plaques, and it's amazing how quickly you do this right after you eat.
Now, would there be certain people that may be at a higher risk for someone having the same meal, but someone else may be at a higher risk for developing a heart attack or heart problems?
If you already have heart failure and you have a fatty, salty meal, that's going to cause water weight gain. Your blood pressure is going to go up, and if you have increased water weight gain, that causes an increased fluid load on your heart, and it will worsen heart failure. So you have literally cause and effect that day. You will have more shortness of breath that day if you eat too much salt and a big fatty meal. The other thing that's interesting, so respiratory problems happen a lot during Christmas too. And so people that have COPD, one thing we do at Christmas, which is a beautiful thing, but we have fires in our fireplace, and that smoke, although most of it goes up the chimney, that can also trigger asthma and COPD exacerbations.
Oh, interesting.
And that's one of those things that's beautiful about Christmas, but it's also with the food, the fire, it's not good for you.
You know, and I know November is Diabetes Awareness Month, so I would think that perhaps maybe individuals with diabetes may also be at a high risk, but you know, I know like half the people with diabetes don't even know they have it.
Yeah, so certainly people with diabetes can have increased blood sugars, and that increased blood sugar can increase your risk for heart attack, and certainly it can get you dehydrated and cause a lot of long-term problems. So diabetics have to be even more careful.
If they're aware that they are diabetic.
If they're aware, yeah.
So what would be the symptoms and warning signs of what you call the holiday heart syndrome?
So holiday heart syndrome, you will feel your heart racing and it will feel irregular. And you want to get into the urgency room or an ER as soon as possible, because the longer your heart beats in that rhythm, the greater your chances of having a stroke. So we need to get you out of that rhythm, either with medications or actually sometimes you actually have to have a shock to get you out of that rhythm.
Wow. But it is treatable if you get the help that you need.
Yeah, and you need to get in quickly.
Yeah,
as soon as you feel like your heart's racing and it's irregular, you need to get in within 24 hours. But the sooner you get in, the better, the easier it is to get your heart out of that rhythm.
And it's important to go see an emergency physician like yourself, or
absolutely
call 911 so you get that help immediately. Then.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people may be hesitant to do that, like especially if they're at a holiday gathering, they don't want to cause any fuss, or especially for individual women, I was going to say too.
Yeah, and the other thing around Christmas time is a lot of your primary doctors are not in the office. And so then you think, oh, I don't want to go to the ER. I wish I could go see my doctor. But come, because this is something that we can treat, and we can treat quickly. And the sooner we treat it, the better off you are, and the less heart damage you have, and the lower your risk of stroke. How
does stress fit into all of this as well? We talked about diet and alcohol, but what about stress? A lot of people have stress during the holidays.
Yeah, so they've done studies on what the most stressful holidays are, and Thanksgiving and Christmas are the most stressful. The least stressful is 4th of July, because we have no expectations. You're like, all I have to do on 4th of July is have a great time. But on Christmas, you have to make dinner, and you need to get presents. Everybody needs to come. So stress, it can increase your blood pressure, again, putting you at risk for heart attack. But it also lowers your immune system. And Christmas is also the time when it's flu season. So you really need to try to get enough sleep. Maybe just take a 5-minute break and meditate. Do something to lower your stress level, but especially get enough sleep, because that's one thing people skimp on during the holidays. They also skimp on exercise because you're too busy, but it's really important to continue your exercise. Join a gym, buy a workout video, something where you can actually continue all winter, because the snow starts and people don't want to go outside. Walk in the mall, just do something so that you don't lose that, because the less you exercise, the higher your blood pressure as well, and that again can put you at greater risk for heart problems.
Any other tips or advice for having a healthy heart during the holidays?
So I think it's really, really hard to control your diet during the holidays. So one thing you could do before you eat that big Thanksgiving dinner or your big Christmas dinner is eat as many raw vegetables and fruit as you can. Fill up on that. And then sit down, because you won't eat as much of the fatty foods if you're already full. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to get into trouble by eating a lot of vegetables. So if you can do that, then you won't necessarily feel like you're denying yourself, because it's hard. I mean, we make good food at Christmas and Thanksgiving, but try to fill up on healthy foods first.
And just recently, too, the World Health Organization came out with some disturbing, for some people, news about processed meats, such as hot dogs and things like that, or bacon, that they may have bacon serving during the holidays in some of their dishes and that. So what advice would you have about dealing with those things?
So what actually happens, it is processed meats have something called nitrates in them. And other meats that aren't processed, so bacon's not always processed, but in order to cook it, you pan fry it, which creates a chemical that also mutates your DNA. And when that happens, that increases your risk for cancer. So we know that the more meat you eat, the greater your risk for cancer. So I personally love bacon. Just eat less of it. If we can just decrease the amount we eat, that's better for us in general. And we know that the people that live the longest have low-calorie diets. So if you can eat about 1,500 calories a day, your longevity goes up. That's really hard, but it's moderation. So eat less of it. And certainly processed meat, hot dogs, chicken nuggets, we knew from the beginning those weren't good for you. But it's okay to eat anything if you just eat a little bit of it and not, and that's just a part of your diet. Your diet should be mainly fruits and vegetables, and mainly vegetables.
Other tips or advice to get us through these holiday season and stay healthy and enjoy the new year? I would keep an eye on your loved ones, the people that have chronic disease to begin with, and make sure if they're coming over that you have healthy options for them, because none of us have willpower at this time of year. So if you offer your family members have the option of celery and carrots, it's better. Just make sure they have the options. Mm-hmm. And then also, I think before we started, you were talking about, too, also this time of the year around here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, we start getting snow, and that also can put some strain on some people's hearts.
Yeah, so cold weather in and of itself, just being out in the cold, raises your blood pressure. And what we see a lot is people that have heart problems go outside and they shovel. It's cold, their blood pressure goes up, their heart is requiring a lot of extra blood flow because they're exercising, but your blood pressure's up, so your blood vessel's smaller, so they will have significant heart problems while shoveling. So this is where you get the neighbor kid to shovel your driveway, okay? So if you have heart problems, get help. And because the cold weather is different than mowing your lawn in the summer.
Had no idea.
It's the cold that will make it even harder on your body to exercise outside.
Final comments for our viewers.
Have fun. Just, drink in moderation, eat more vegetables, go ahead and enjoy things, but just a little bit less.
And if they want some more advice or information, to go to your website at the urgency room?
Absolutely. Yep. And if you have any chest pressure, difficulty breathing, treat it seriously. Come to the urgency room. We're open on Christmas. I'm working.
Open. Yep.
So
7 days a
yeah,
week,
exactly,
holidays included.
Exactly. Just get and any heart racing, get in right away.
Well, Dr. McClain, always a pleasure to have you with us. So thank you so much, and great advice. So thank you.
Thanks.
And we'd like to thank you for joining us. We hope you join us next time on Inside Healthcare. See you then, everyone.